Hello, Blaine Gilmer here for Southeastern 14, breaking down the Tennessee Volunteers visiting the Pittsburgh Panthers, the Pitt Panthers. Yes, I want to point out, I know this is not a Pitt Panthers helmet over here, but hey, I only have the SEC helmet, so had to go with a fellow feline, the Missouri Tigers, as a substitute over here. So Tennessee going on the road to Pitt. Like I said, Southeastern 14 right here. We cover every game every week, so make sure you subscribe. And without further ado, let's get right into it. You've got the Tennessee Volunteers going on the road to Acrisure Stadium. I always would prefer to call it Heinz Field. I don't know why they have to go and do all that kind of stuff, but Tennessee going on the road away from Knoxville up to Pittsburgh for a rematch with Pitt from last year. All-time Pitt leads the series 3-0, including that 41-31 victory led by Kenny Pickett last year in Rocky Top. Tennessee, a 4.5-point road favorite. So Vegas, taking into account home field advantage for Pitt, they really think Tennessee probably a touchdown better than the Panthers this year. The over-under is 64.5. This is a 3:30 game on ABC. And like I said, it will be played at Acrisure Stadium, formerly known as Heinz Field. The Pittsburgh Panthers are 1-0 on the year, as are the Tennessee Volunteers. Pitt took down West Virginia 38-31. And Tennessee throttled Ball State 59-10. So now let's look at some of the headlines. Like I said, this is a rematch, although it does have some new dynamics to it. Last year, it was Joe Milton that started off this game for Tennessee, not Hendon Hooker. And then, had Kenny Pickett there, had Jordan Addison there for Pitt. So a little bit different look on each side. Kedon Slovis is now the quarterback there for Pitt, another guy that, speaking of USC, he comes from USC. Jordan Addison goes out to USC, so all kinds of stuff going on in the modern day, the transfer portal. But it is a rematch nonetheless. The Vols pass rush, they didn't get home once against the Ball State's quarterback. It is, Ball State was doing a lot of quick passes, yes, things like that. But Tennessee's got to be able to get pressure on Kedon Slovis if they want to have success in this game. And then can Pitt run the ball? Only 76 yards rushing against West Virginia in their opener. They're going to need to be able to run the football to be able to keep that Tennessee offense off the field. So those are our headlines here. We're going to get into some of the key matchups. But, guys, this is a game that I think that maybe there's a little bit of a overreaction of what maybe we saw week one on both sides. Pitt's offensive line had some struggles against West Virginia. Even so, Kedon Slovis was very successful, was able to have 308 yards passing and, really bolstered that Pitt offense to where it needed to be able to win that game late. But like I said, offensive line had issues. They really didn't allow JT Daniels in West Virginia to throw the ball down the field. A lot more short passes. That yards per attempt was below 6 yards per attempt. I mean, it was really dink and dunk type deal for West Virginia. Didn't allow a lot of explosive plays. Pitt didn't. So, that's something that Tennessee is going to try to definitely change right off the bat and be able to hit some of their premier players. And speaking of those, let's go ahead and look at the matchups, the dudes right here. You've got Hendon Hooker, Kedon Slovis, the two quarterbacks we've already talked about. Running backs for each team, Jabari Small and Rodney Hammond Jr. Jabari Small had a really nice contest to open up the season for Tennessee. One of the better running backs in the SEC, but one of the more underrated ones as well. Doesn't get a whole lot of love, just kind of comes in there, does his thing, and is a back that really keeps those legs churning and should have a huge year for Tennessee. That's going to be key too. Is Pitt able to hold down Tennessee's run game at all, because if Tennessee can get the run game going as well, they can start to gash you. They can move you with that pace, and then that's when the big plays pop, because those safeties have to come down and they're able to hit Cedric Tillman or Jalen Hyatt or one of their many receiving weapons on the outside over the top, and things snowball on you in a hurry. Put Cooper Mays on here because he's a junior. He's been around for a long time, and he's going to be important because Acrisure Stadium with Pitt already having won a game. They're undefeated right now, coming in there, middle of the day game, good weather in Pittsburgh. Should be a raucous crowd, should be lots of energy. So even though Tennessee goes fast, Cooper May is going to have to handle all the calls, all the protections, things like that. Make sure that the snap count, everything goes off without a hitch, without getting procedure penalties for Tennessee. Over there for Pitt, Konata Mumpfield, he's a guy from Decula, Georgia, that played at Akron, that has really come on as a transfer for Pitt. Him and Jared Wayne, the top two options for Kedon Slovis. But here's the thing. Their offensive line is going to have to play better. You cannot allow 5 sacks like they did against West Virginia, and they're going to have to find a way to be able to get some movement up front and run the football. Conversely, on the other side, Tennessee, Byron Young, Tyler Barron, none of those guys got home for Ball State. They're going to have to find a pass rush. Christian Charles and Warren Burrell, they're younger corners that are having to step up into the spotlight here. They're going to be matched up on Wade and on Mumpfield. It'll be interesting to see. Of course, you got Aaron Beasley and Jeremy Banks leading the linebacker position over there. Pitt also has a lot of returning all ACC selections. Kalijah Cansey, Habakkuk Baldonado, 2 guys that can really get after the passer, led the team in sacks last year. Servassier Dennis was the leading tackler for Pitt a year ago. You know, he'll have his hands full trying to make sure, like I said, that Jabari Small doesn't get loose. Jaylen Wright, a talented running back, had just as many carries as Small in the first game, 13 carries, 88 yards. So it's going to be on Servassier Dennis and that linebacking core for Pitt to make sure they handle that. Eric Haley, the second, is a leader in the secondary for Pitt, a returning starter, someone that is going to have to communicate, and communication is key with the pace and the tempo and recognizing formations and tendencies that Tennessee likes to run. Marquise Williams is the number 1 corner for Tennessee. He'll be matched up on Cedric Tillman most likely. So it's going to be interesting to see how these two teams match up. I think this is a closer game than Vegas kind of thinks right off the bat. Listen, from week 1 to week 2, there's always improvement from the teams. I mean, if you're the least well coached at all, and Pittsburgh is, and Pat Narduzzi, there's going to be improvement. I also think Josh Heupel is going to rectify some things on his defensive front to be able to create more pressure and they're going to have to, because you can't just let Kedon Slovis sit back there and have all day to throw. He's too talented to do so. So I think that this one, I do like Tennessee to come out on top here, but I'm going to say that it's closer. I would say that Pitt covers that 6.5. Ultimately, I think Tennessee's pace offensively is too much for Pittsburgh. Middle of the day game, that conditioning comes into play. I know they faced some pace against West Virginia, but nothing like they're going to face against Tennessee. Ultimately, I don't know if that Pittsburgh's offensive line is able to protect Slovis well enough and also run the football well enough. But I think Jabari Small could end up being a big difference maker in this one late in the game, after Tennessee's got all that pace going and gets into the fourth quarter. I think you could see him spreading Pitt out and Jabari Small gashing some big runs late. So give me Tennessee by a field goal, 38-35. Once again, I am Blaine Gilmer here for Southeastern 14. If you like our previews, like our content here, subscribe, turn on notifications. We really appreciate it. On Wednesday nights, live at 9 p.m. Eastern time. Myself, Chris Lee, and Blake Lovell, we go live to go more in depth on all these games, talk the latest news, the latest trends, the analysis for all these games, give you predictions. So make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications. We really appreciate it, and we will catch you next time on Southeastern.
Bye.